I want to talk a little bit about national debt, the government spending, and its relationship to inflation. The connection is often mentioned, but casually and carelessly. Oh, they're spending too much money, so therefore there is inflation, but they don't explain what's happening. But when the money is spent, which they don't have, it's an emergency, so they have to print the money. And so that is the inflation. The inflation there is very significant, and that goes up. And then that leads to huge deficits and huge price inflation. And I want to show a chart here in a minute. But in the first $1 trillion worth of debt that this country built up, it didn't happen until Ronald Reagan was in office in 1981. That doesn't mean Ronald Reagan caused it all, but he didn't stop it either. You know, even during Reagan era, spending went up, which means that what we're talking about is very bipartisan. It's very much controlled by the influence of the deep state on politicians per se, whether they're in the Congress or whether they're at the Federal Reserve or whether they're in the Senate or whatever. There's a lot of control through the money supply. You know, so there was the first $1 trillion of debt, and that was 2000. And that was in 1981. Now, in the year 2000, the debt had crept up to a little boost there, 5.8 trillion. So they're getting warmed up for that. In 2008, when we had another correction, another bailout, and the introduction of QE, and we had the housing bubble, this is a time where tinkering just didn't work. It's worked to a degree over the years because there were controls, and they felt important to try to stop us, so they'd raise interest rates, and they tinkered, and they got away with this. But in 2008, it quit working, and that's when they introduced this notion of QE, massive purchase of long-term debt, you know, mortgage debt as well as government debt. But, you know, now that was in 2008, it was $10 trillion of debt, but in the last year, it has jumped up to $30 trillion. It is just out of control totally, and there is no way they're going to cut spending. It's just not going to happen. Because let's say even if they froze the budget, which they won't, what would they do with all that debt they have now? Interest rates are going up, and whether they orchestrated it or what, the market will drive interest rates up. The market works in credit cards, and I understand credit card debt is up a little bit, you know, and so the government's on a credit card, so eventually that will go up. So, and then of course people don't talk about it too much, but then they have these unfunded liabilities, and they're way over $100 trillion. That's Social Security, all the thing. If that were a business, if we dealt with it as a business, that would be debt. It would be an obligation. But the obligation here will be fulfilled, and they can't tax anybody anymore, and everybody's going to get paid with fiat money that's losing its value, and that is where the problem is, and that is where the concern is, and the people are getting angry and upset, and as if they continue to believe it's not enough money coming from the government and demanding more money handings out or more control on wages and prices, exactly what Biden's talking about. Believe me, there's going to be a lot of chaos, but because it's given them the wrong medicine, the wrong diagnosis, and things would be much worse. But what has happened with that debt increase? What has happened, to the money supply? Well, in 2008, the money supply was $7.7 trillion. Today, it's up to $21 trillion. In the last 3 years, it's gone up $6.7 trillion in 3 years. And we have a chart up there now that you can see that line is going over there, and all of a sudden, look at what happened. The line is going straight up. And that represents all the spending and all the debt that we have. And those kind of lines don't reverse gradually and go down. The gradual increase is very seductive. That's what makes politicians, excited. Oh, I'm doing this, and everybody likes the dollar, and they still use the dollar. Matter of fact, even right now. But the truth is, the dollar is showing signs that our problems are very, very serious. I've been asked many, many times over the years, yes, you talk about too much debt, too much spending, inflation, the danger to the dollar, and it doesn't seem so bad. it wasn't bad enough to have wage and price controls, but and I said, and they want to know, when does it look like it's going to happen? When prices go up at the marketplace, because that's something they can't rig. They'll try, and I still think they'll come along with wage and price controls, but that won't work. But right now, this situation is sending a strong message and saying that the dollar is a lot weaker. So the dollar is being devalued, maybe not against all the international currencies, which they are to some degree, but that's less important than the purchasing power of the dollar by the average American family. And believe me, there's not many families that exist now that aren't aware of prices going up. All you have to talk about is food, medical care, and gasoline. And that means the dollar's going down, the prices are going up, standard of living is going down, up, and the blame is, again, just like on COVID, they blame freedom, and they said what we need is more Marxism to solve our problem. So they've introduced the Marxist movement. Hopefully it's fading now in dealing with COVID, but they will do it. Those seeds have been planted in the economy already. But there is now a conclusion with COVID, and people are backing off. Someday there will be a conclusion. We will have a chance, just as the founders had a chance to decide what type of country we would have. And fortunately, for a period of time, we certainly benefited by their wise choices in the Constitution.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.